Goodbye to apartment 5B.
You're now tuned into the Apartment 5B podcast, where we chop it up about hip-hop, R&B, sports, love and life. Hosted by Kill.
What's good? You tune to Apartment 5B, hosted by your man Kill. I got my squad with me. In effect, as always, Porsche. What's good, miss?
How's it going, Kill?
Everything is good. You know, it's been a crazy week, so just trying to piece it together as is. You know, just needed this as a much needed break to kind of talk about something else. So,
no kidding.
No doubt. DJ Rec One out of Houston. What's going on, good brother?
Same old. You know how it is.
All right. Well, you know, let's jump right into it. This week's show, Porsche's topic. So I'm gonna give Porsche the floor to set everything off, and we're gonna take it from there.
Sure. So I was talking to someone online in a conversation, and people keep bringing up these perfect albums in hip hop. Oh, this album is perfect. This album is perfect. It's flawless. And I don't know. I mean, I get into these conversations, and I have a very, very hard time calling something perfect. Because to me, that means it could not get any better no matter what you did to it. It is at the highest point in quality and everything that it can be. So I'm very, very reluctant to call things perfect, especially when it comes to music, because it's so subjective. So I always kind of go back and forth, and then that's when, and I can't remember the album that was talked about. I think it was Ready to Die, maybe. And I was like, no, I don't think that's perfect. Like, it's not to me anyways. Anyway, so then I told Kill, hey, let's do a show about perfect albums. Like, does this even exist? And what is the criteria for a perfect album? What does it have to kind of be to be perfect? So that's how it all came about.
All right, no doubt. So the first thing I want to do is try to break this down. I was having this conversation with somebody on Twitter earlier this week about something, and it was like, you know, Kill, you got your whole metric system of how you rate MCs and everything like that. Now, here's the thing. For a lot of people who don't know, one of my side hustles is marriage coaching, and I've been doing it 12 years, damn good at it. But one of the things I've learned with just not romantic relationships, but relationships, period. Mother, son, you know, father, whatever relationship, brother, sister, whatever. Everybody has a different definition for the same word. And a lot of times the confusion comes because your definition of intimacy is different than my definition of intimacy. So I think I'm giving you what you want, you think you're giving me what I want, but we don't. So I almost equate it to speaking another language. Like, there's no way we can do this show if I speak English, Porsche speaks Spanish, and Rex speaks French. We're going to be sitting here trying to understand each other, and it's not going to make any sense. It's going to frustrate all of us to the point that we just say, screw it, you know, it's over. And that's what happens in most relationships. Again, not just romantic, but siblings and family members and cousins and friends and everything like that. So one of the things is when people say the word classic, we all have a different definition for it. You know what I mean? So one of the things I want to talk about to kind of clear the air, and we did this a while ago when we did our like top 10 MCs list. And the first thing we did before we even started was, what's your criteria of an MC? You know what I mean? Or what are the top 5 attributes an MC needs? And then when you do that, it prevents a lot of arguments from happening, because Yao actually said he didn't mind if an MC had a ghostwriter. So when Drake made his top 10 list, it didn't spark any arguments with us, because it was like, oh, but Yao doesn't mind ghostwriters, so it is what it is. Whereas if that wasn't defined in the beginning, everybody would have been like, yo, what are you talking about? Like, how can Drake be a top 10? But because we understood Yao's criteria, it just makes conversations that just flow better. And I always tell people, don't tune into this podcast for no drama. This is not the Howard Stern. This is not that podcast. Like, we don't do drama. So we're trying to clear this up. So let me ask y'all this. Porsche, does a classic album, well, let's start with this. Does a classic album have to be 5 mics for you?
No.
For you? Okay.
No, it does not. I have albums that I think are classics. and that are universal classics that I don't think are 5 mics. For me, I 4.5 mics is a pass for me. And I also have like a skipping tracks limit too. So I allow for myself at least two skippable tracks, skits included. And that's why I don't think there's a perfect album. So it segues pretty well into this topic. So.
All right, Rec, what about you? Is a 5 mic album, is that a classic to you?
No, there's been plenty of 5 mic albums that we've seen that are not classics across the board. For me, no, that has nothing to do with it at all.
Okay, all right, and this is a great reason why I like to have these start this before, because I'm the total opposite. To me, kind of being raised on the source, 5 mics equals a classic to me. So if I say an album is a classic coming from me, then it's 5 mics. You know what I'm saying? And the reason why I was saying this is a great conversation, because we just did the show on The Shining, and I want to say everybody called it the classic album, but some people gave it a 4, some people gave it a 4.5, I gave it a 5. So this is what I mean by kind of having an intelligent breakdown before you start having the discussion, because this is what's going to be able to clear all of that up. So for me, a 5 mic album, if I say something is a classic, you can know coming out of my mouth, that means it got 5 mics. Now, here's the thing. Does a classic album have to be perfect? And I'll give an example what I mean by that. I think Public Enemy's It Takes a Nation of Millions is the greatest hip hop album ever. I may even feel in my heart of heart that it's the greatest piece of recorded music ever. But there are at least 2 to 3 songs I skip on there, like Fight for Your Right to Party, or they had the Beasties and PE had like a swing on names. It was like Party for Your Right to Fight or something. And then she watched Channel Zero. But I'm telling you that this may be the greatest hip hop album ever. But I think it goes back to what Porsche said earlier. For me, a 5 mic album doesn't have to be perfect. Like you said, Porsche, I'm going to give it, you get 1 to 2 skips. You know what I mean? Because again, it's very damn hard to make a flawless album. So for me, a classic album does not have to be perfect. Porsche, what about you?
I definitely, it's tough. So I think that if it has skippable tracks on it, then immediately it's not perfect, because how I look at it is the artist created this album and put the track list together the way they wanted it to be consumed. Now, if we're skipping through it, then it's flawed in a way. If we're skipping through 1 or 2 tracks, because it's not sitting with us for whatever reason. The beat might not be great. The lyrics might not hit. It just doesn't go. It's not, doesn't follow the flow that you were feeling before. Whatever the case may be, something about it is amiss. And to me, that negates the whole definition of what perfect is to me. So I don't think, I allow for, that's why I don't think there's any perfect albums. I'll just say it that way.
All right. Right. What about you, good brother? Does a classic album have to be flawless?
No, I really don't think there's such thing as a flawless album. It's subjective, because I could think that an album is flawless. I could not skip through any track on an album, and I could get the side eye, or get looked at crazy by anybody. Like, hold on, but you don't skip from that one. That one's trash. So it's subjective to the listener. No, I don't think that's the case, man.
And it's funny that you brought that up, and that's a good point, because one of the things I wanted to say that, again, people I'm sure already know, like Rex said, everything is subjective. I tell people every day, it's about what speaks to you. That's why at 45, when I was in my 20s in that Morgan, we could argue hip hop all day. I had this arrogant attitude that I know more than you, so I'm gonna sit here and school you on music, and that was cool in my 20s. Nigga, I'm too old to be arguing. I got too much stuff to be worrying about to argue with somebody over music. That I always say, right? Even if I convince you that I guess you're wrong and I'm right, what do I get out of that? Do I get a paycheck? See, everything I do now is all about money. It's like retirement, it's about college funds, it's about paying off debt. So if there's no way for me, like, okay, if you like Killer, if you can convince me Dilla's the best ever and I say it's Primo, I'll give you a G, then nigga, we can sit here and argue all night. Okay? We can argue all night because I want that G at the end of the day. But if at the end of the day, all I get to say is, look, I schooled Rec, like, dog, that's not worth 8 hours out my day or arguing and everything like that. So again, this is all subjective because there may be somebody out there who loves, she watched Channel Zero off of It Takes a Nation. This is just all subjective. This is just all going back to us. So for me, now let's define a perfect album. I'm with you, Porsche. To me, a perfect album is I'm not skipping shit. And I'm talking about from intros. I'm talking about through skits. I'm talking about I put this album on and I do not skip anything. Now, that's my personal definition of a perfect album. There's somebody out there I know watching this is going to be like, oh, well, I don't count skits or I don't count intros. Like, I'll give you a great example just with 2 albums that just came out. The WWCD joint, the Griselda joint. When I put that on my iTunes, I don't include that first track with Raekwon. I don't even include it. Goes straight into that second song. That's how I want it to come on. I don't want to hear Ray talking for 20 minutes. You know what I mean? So to me, that album's not perfect just for that intro. Same thing with Rock Marciano, Marcialago. I skipped that first song. On my iTunes, on my phone, it comes in straight with Molly Ringwald. Like, I don't want to, and see, I don't want to have to adjust that. So just there, 2 albums that I love, you know what I mean, are perfect to me. Just for the simple fact of the intro. Now, somebody else may be like, I don't count intros, I don't count. Nigga, if I got to hit a button, then it ain't perfect to me. So, Porsche, is that your definition of perfect and why your belief is there isn't a perfect hip-hop album?
So I think that some albums are like, there's no skippable tracks on some albums. I think they're very few and far between, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're perfect. It just means that the way it was presented and put together and the overall project is very good, great. The way that it was meant to be, kind of thing. Does that make sense? So again, I mean, we could do this with any album. Like if you take, God, I don't know, like all the classics come to mind, and I don't want to even open that can of worms. But
no. We gonna open the can of worms because here's the thing, and I tell people all the time on Illmatic, I always skip over One Time for Your Mind. Like it's not a song that.
Like, okay, so what I mean is like, okay, It Was Written to Me is my favorite album in Nas's discography, hands down, easily, far beyond anything by a lot, right? But could it have been better? Yes, there could have been this producer, it could have been that producer, but I like it the way it is. I love it. It's on my favorite albums of all time. I think it's the best album, one of the best albums of all time. But is it flawless? No, it's flawed because in some way, because it doesn't sit the same with everybody that way. Does that make sense? Like, I just feel like something that's perfect.
It does.
Cannot be critiqued by anybody else.
Right, but here's the thing that for tonight, we're talking about for you. Okay. You know what I mean? So I get what you're saying that somebody else may think, but we're just talking about for your opinion, is a perfect hip hop album defined by for you hit play and that's it. You don't ever have to hit skip.
No.
Okay.
Oddly enough, no. There are albums that I think are, some of them, my favorite album of all time has skips on it.
Okay.
Like,
all right. So what about you, Rec? Does a perfect hip hop album have to be there are no skips? And again, this is great. This is a great conversation because, like I said, for me, perfect means I'm not skip. I hit play and I sit back and I don't have to do nothing. So, Rec, what about you?
So for me, that's part of it. That's big because the way I consume music, a lot of times I'm either driving or I have to sit down with it. So if I can listen to it and I don't have to reach for like a fast forward or skip, then that plays a huge part for me. If I got to skip through it, it depends on how many times I got to skip through it before I decide, where it sits in my little bit of ranking or whatever. But that's I use it as a criteria.
All right. So here's the wild part. So Porsche calls me with this topic, and I start thinking because I'm like, this is going to be hard because again, with my definition, it's going to be super hard and I feel like there are a lot of things that could have prevented what we look at as classic albums from being perfect. And what I mean by that is for young folk out there who don't understand, and I call these like, you know, almost like the phases in hip hop. Rec, you understand. In the 80s, there was a time when every rapper had to have a house song on their album.
Oh, indeed.
You know what I mean? So again, outside of Jungle Brothers' Girl I'll House You, which to me is the dopest hip hop house song ever to this day. And everything else was a failure. Every other house song just,
you didn't like You Gotta Get It Homes?
Bruh, I didn't like
too much to drink.
If it was not Girl I'll House You, it was over.
That is a classic house song. I don't even consider that a hip hop song, to be honest.
Right.
I'm doing a house set. I may start the house set with that as a bridge from hip hop to house.
Super. But here's the thing that people may not know, because again, I have to keeping in mind, it's not just the three of us talking, it's people watching.
Right.
That in 87, 88, when this album came out, the Jungle Brothers were all hip hop. You know, for people who may not know, this is the foundation of the native tongue. So for them to have Girl I'll House You, and like you said, Rec, for it to not even just be looked at as a hip hop house song, that it's actually a house song, but the origin of it is a hip hop house song. You know what I mean? So a lot of albums, like I said earlier, a 5-mic album to me doesn't have to be perfect. I may give you 2 to maybe even 3 tracks because of things like that, but then it's not perfect because I have to skip it. Another thing, interludes. When De La came out with interludes and people lost their goddamn mind and everybody had to have interludes and wanted to make their albums in the movies and all of that stuff and intros, Prodigy talking for 20 minutes on the like all of that shit plays a part into why, again, for me, there are a lot of albums that aren't perfect. Rec, you would know this too. DJ solo songs on albums. Eric B is on the cut is going to stop Paid in Full from being a perfect hip hop album, again, for my definition of perfect hip hop album. Now, here's the flip. Jazzy Jeff on Rock the House, A Touch of Jazz. That I love that song. So there were DJ songs where the DJ just got busy that were dope. But Eric B is on the cut is gonna stop Paid in Full, in my opinion, from being perfect. And then as we got into the 90s, that New Jack Swing song, the infamous New Jack Swing, either Teddy Riley or the Teddy Riley Biter song to get that across. So I just wanted to put that out there because a lot of people are going to be like, well, I don't understand why you ain't say the Infamous was a perfect hip hop album. Kill. Well, because the interludes. You know what I mean? To this day, I love Ready to Die, 5-mic album. I've never heard the entire Friend of Mine song. I have no idea what the second and third verse sound like. That song is whack to me. I don't even know if I get through 13 of Big's bars. Big could have literally the dopest lyrics he ever wrote in his life as the second and third verse of Friend of Mine, and I have no idea what it sounds like because I'm skipping it every time. So that's what it is for me. Now, the other thing that I found interesting was that, Porsche, when you sent me this, I was able to rattle R&B albums off the top of my head that I felt were perfect, that I don't have to skip a song. Hip hop was a lot harder. Like I had to go into my iTunes, I had to go into my hard drive, I had to look at my CDs, I had to go through some vinyl to really see. Like I had to dig. Whereas with R&B, I was like, oh, D'Angelo's Brown Sugar, that's perfect. I don't skip anything on that. Like I was just naming joints like that, and I want to get into that discussion maybe later on about why we think that is. But we have belabored this for 15 minutes defining things. Let's get to the meat and potatoes. Porsche. What is one, if you have any, of a perfect hip hop album for you?
So I have albums that
and again, I'm sorry, Porsche. Just again for people watching and for me, because I'm slow. What's your definition of a perfect hip hop album? Just so I can grasp it.
So I don't think a perfect hip hop album exists.
But right.
There are albums that I listen to that have no skips, and a great one is like these cinematic albums that are actually laid out and play out like a movie does. I don't want to make this show all about cinematics because maybe that's a topic for another time, but I'm gonna say like Autobiography of Kirk Jones. Sticky Fingers is an album. That's one where sort of the interludes and the skits and all of that sort of really do what an interlude and a skit is supposed to do, and that's develop characters and people and feeling and atmosphere, and all of that. And so for me, that album actually requires those. If you skip over that, you've missed something that'll be referred to later on. You know what I mean? So to me, that one like immediately came to mind. Like I would not skip anything on that because you kind of need it for the storyline. It's like literally plays out like a movie.
Yeah.
Right. It's like going to the bathroom during a scene in a movie and then you miss something.
Yeah, you miss something.
Exactly.
You know?
If you,
Okay.
yeah, exactly.
Right. All right. Rec, what about you? What is one of your perfect hip hop albums? And before, real quick, just define what perfect is for you.
So perfect for me, having not too many skips, that's key. And just basically what it does for me, like you were saying before, you know, just certain albums speak to you more so than others. That's key for me. Just basically, you know, where I'm at as far as in my life and what the album does for me, and the fact that I don't have to run through it via skips. That's probably, those are the two main things. And then the third, I listen to beats before I listen to lyrics, and then I go back and I listen to both. So those are pretty much my criterias. As far as an album, I'm going with Business as Usual, EPMD, 1990. I think I was 12? That was probably my first real full-on consumption of hip-hop and knowing what it was. Like I was around, I was a shorty, but you know, when you're 8, 9, sometimes 10 years old, you don't really have a true understanding of what you're listening to. 12, 13, you kind of stepping into those preteen years, you kind of getting an idea of it. That album, I understood everything they was talking about, and it spoke to me like no other. For one, it's seamless from front to back. It's not too long, it's not too short. It's kind of, for me, it's just right. And you know, it's something I still find myself to this day listening to, and you figure that album is 30 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it for me, it stood the test of time. That's one of my, if we're gonna use the word perfect or seamless, that's one of my seamless albums.
All right. It's funny you say that because I actually had that. I have Strictly Business and Business Never Personal joint. You know what I mean? Both of those albums to me, Strictly came out in '88.
Right.
I always explain to younger kids that, you know, back in those days, we had a single that would last you forever. You know what I mean? So I may have
heard a
heard
maxi single.
yeah, you know, I may have heard you know, It's My Thing in '86. You know what I'm saying? And
Damn.
Yeah, I mean, keeping in mind, like you would hear the single maybe 2 years before the album dropped. You know, because we got It's My Thing. God, what was the other one? Where's my EPMD joint?
Let me see.
We got
You're a customer.
We got It's My Thing and You're a Customer.
Yeah, that's on the B side.
Then the following year, we got Strictly Business and You Got to Chill, and then we got the album. You know what I mean? So
Makes sense.
You know, it took time for that to be, but I mean everything. And again, like Rec, you said, this is all just for what spoke to us. I mean, everything on it, Strictly Business, I'm Housing, Let the Funk Flow, You Got to Chill, It's My Thing, You're a Customer. Even a Steve Martin, Get Off the Bandwagon, DJ Caleb Boss, and Jane. Like, you know, this was just a perfect hip hop album. I didn't have to skip a thing. And then, like you said, Rec, with Business Never Personal, same thing. Boondocks, you know, Nobody's Safe, you know, Can't Hear Nothing But the Music, Chill, Headbanger.
Nah, that's which one? That's Business Never Personal you got right there?
Yeah, my bad. Which one did you say?
Business as Usual. Business Never Personal was 92.
You're right. This is my freshman year at Morgan. My bad.
Nah, you good.
But we in the same EPMD realm.
Yes.
You know, Crossover, Coming at You, Play the Next Man, It's Going Down, Who Killed Jane. Even that to me was dope. So to me, both of those albums were perfect albums. I don't skip anything. I put them on. I can just sit back, relax, and that's it. So that's one of my perfect albums. Porsche, what's another one for you?
I got 36 Chambers. And the reason for that is I just think there was enough variation with the entire clan being part of it and everyone having sort of a verse every song or every other song. It was so well done in terms of like I want to say it was just put together so well that I still to this day don't get bored of listening to 36 Chambers from top to bottom. Like it, and there's enough in there that it keeps you engaged the whole way through. and sometimes you go back and listen to the same song over and over, like Protect Your Neck.
Right.
You know, so yeah, 36 Chambers to me from beginning to end is just seamless. I like the word seamless because that means to me, it's not necessarily perfect, but it definitely has no wrinkles in it. It's very well put together. So 36 Chambers very easily for me.
All right. What about you, Rhett?
So this one was a toss-up, man. I had to listen to both these albums today just to kind of come at some kind of conclusion because for some weird reason, man, I put them together. It was gonna be a toss-up between Gang Starr's Daily Operation or Hard to Earn.
Nice.
And I had to go with Hard to Earn. This is freshman year of high school for me. So freshman year for anybody is a pivotal year. You know, you might be in a new city, you might be in a new place, you're definitely in a new school. And you know, as an athlete, music is what drives most athletes outside of their sport and school. And for me, you know, when you hear Take It Personal in 91, and I don't know, man, I can't describe it. The feeling you get when you hear this original, you know, in 91. But this album, man, I can't skip this album. I don't skip anything from it, you know. They came out with what, 3 singles? If you ask me, they could have came out with 5. I find myself just as a DJ and doing more mixes, playing more songs off of the albums than what was released as far as singles. I don't even go to the singles anymore. There's so much stuff on here. It's kind of like Porsche said, you don't get tired of listening to this album, in my opinion. You know, there's people that probably don't like it or whatever, but this is a flawless album for me.
All right.
That's just where I sit with it.
All right, no doubt. Another album I had that I need to pull from over here is Criminal Minded. To me, this is perfect. This is 86. Poetry, South Bronx, 9mm Goes Bang, word from our sponsor, Elementary, Dope Beat, P is Free, The Bridge is Over, Super Ho, Criminal Minded. Just perfect. I don't even know what else to say, but
you know what's crazy, Kill? I feel like KRS was able to reinvent himself off of at least 7 songs off that album, between remixes and just throwing wordplay back to those songs as far as how well they stick. That album, I think that album is slept on. Personal opinion. I think it's slept on. I don't think people give it its just due.
Yeah, to be honest with you, and I mean, again, it's all preference, everything.
Facts.
If you tell me Criminal Minded or Paid in Full, and again, this is how I define it. I got to drive from Maryland to New York and back. And I can only take one album. You tell me Criminal Minded or Paid in Full, I'm taking Criminal Minded. It's not even close to me. You know what I mean? And that's just for me. Somebody else would say, well, no, Kill, because the way Rakim, what he did with rhymes and blah, blah. It's no diss to Paid in Full. I'm just telling you that if I can only listen to one album for a 5-hour drive to and from, and it's between Paid in Full and Criminal Minded, I'm taking Criminal Minded. You know what I mean? So that's just me. Porsche, what's another joint that you got, miss?
I'll go with Mecca and the Soul Brother.
Okay.
I mean, any opportunity I have to talk about that album, yeah, to me, that's just, it's not even long enough. I wish it was another like 10 track.
Man.
It's just everything. It's great. Pete Rock is amazing. CL Smooth is phenomenal with rapping. Every single song is just, you look forward to it. Troy's on that album. Like, yeah, Troy is a perfect song to me. And I think there's a lot of perfect songs. And I think Troy is one of the main reasons why I get so excited to listen to that album. But yeah, I mean, Straighten It Out, like all of them. They're just so good. It is a very well put together, such quality, amazing production. Like it's great. It's great.
No doubt. Right. What's another one for you?
All right, man. So I shouldn't have been listening to this album at this age. I had no idea what he was talking about, but the shit sounded good. Man, Slick Rick, The Great Adventures of. Quick story, man. I was 10 years old. Parents divorced. My dad was taking me back to live with my mom. My dad is from Brooklyn, Jamaican. So he listened to this album. Like you said, Kill, you was driving from Maryland to New York. We was driving from Georgia to Brooklyn. Only album we had. Man, this is a dope album from front to back. I have maybe 2 skips. Let's Get Crazy, and depending on how I'm feeling, Teacher. Other than that, I don't skip anything on this album. Dope album, one of the greatest storytellers ever to pick up a microphone. And just, you know, the album, you have to hear it, man. If you listen to it and just sit with it, you'll agree. Production from front to back is dope. You got Hank Shocklee on it. I didn't even know Hank Shocklee was on that until I started doing the research for this. I had no idea he had anything to do with it. But this album, man, is dope to me. I love it, and it's always going to stay in my rotation as far as seamless albums.
All right, no doubt. Another joint I got Commons B.
Yeah,
I got everything on there is seamless to me. I mean, the intro, you know, and again, this is what I mean by when people be like, well, you can skip the intro.
Nah.
Nigga, if you recorded it and it's the intro to your album, like, nah, I'm not skipping it. If you choose to make, here's the thing, I'm old school. I grew up in an era where you put the needle on the record and you heard a song. I didn't hear somebody beat me in the head with no words and Queensbridge and I'm a, sucker punch you. I just want to hit play and hear music. So if you decide, to me, you know me, everything is like an analogy. If you're trying to kick it to a girl, your intro is really what needs to be dope. That your intro is what's supposed to pull her into your conversation to make this go further. So the intro to your album should be what pulls people in to want to hear more. I should not want to have to skip your intro. I mean, Portia, I think you said it. Like, when I saw Ray on the WWCD album, I'm like, oh, bet, yo, Ray on some Derringer. And I'm like, you talking, my nigga? Like, yo, I don't want to hear this shit. Like, skip. Like,
that's the only thing I heard so far, and I thought the same exact thing. If you're gonna have Raekwon on your album, of all people, he should be spitting.
And Ray has been on stuff before with
and
Zelda.
I said that on Twitter, and people just came at me left, center, and right. Like, you don't know what he's doing. He's
sis, you were right.
Listen, it doesn't matter what you tell me. Raekwon was underutilized. Have him on the intro, but have him spit somewhere because he's underutilized.
Right,
you're bringing in like a neurosurgeon, and you're getting him to do like, I don't know, putting together a sandwich. Like,
right.
You're not, and someone needs brain surgery, but he's over there making a sandwich. Like, that's what it is to me. It's crazy.
And again, the thing is again, our criteria. You know, I take making an album very seriously, probably because I'm a producer, probably because I will sit here we sat here with Musei's album for months going over what's the first song gonna be. Nah, I don't know about that. Like, now I just feel like niggas record 10 songs and they just like put them in whatever order that's
exactly what they do.
So again, I come from an era where an album, I'm not from this iTunes era where niggas could buy a song. You know what I mean? I don't come from a playlist era. I come from when you brought the album and maybe somebody in your neighborhood had a dual tape deck so you could dub it. But I come from an era where what you give me is what I take. You know what I mean? Now we live in an era where we could be like, nah, I don't want that song. I'm going to take these 3 songs off, or I'm going to make a mixtape or make a playlist. That's not how I was raised. You know what I mean? So your intro has to be important. So, like I was saying, the intro to B is crazy. The Corner, Go, Faithful, Testify, Love Is, Shy City, The Food, Real People, they say, and it's your world. Like, to me, perfect album. I put it in and hit play. Then not just that I can hit play. This is just, for me at least, a very good feeling album. Like, you know what I mean? The Corner is hard. Go is witty. Testify is your storytelling. I feel like Common is like knocking everything out the park that you could want from an MC on this joint. And then on top of this, him coming back from Electric Circus to make this still puts him at a very high caliber, because it's very hard to come back from a Suspect album like
Electric Circus.
Electric Circus. Yeah, I don't forgot the name of the shit that quick, so yeah, it's very hard. Of course, you got another one for me?
Yep, I do. One of my favorite albums of all time, Light as a Rock, MC Lyte.
Yes.
Okay.
Like MC Lyte is a powerhouse. I talk about her all the time whenever I can. This album to me is just amazing because it was released in '88. We know the landscape of hip hop in '88. It was heavily male dominated, still is, but it was even more so back then. Yeah. MC Lyte comes into this with, I mean, she's not like exploiting herself. She's not using weird ways of getting attention and marketing and things like that. She's just rhyming, and she's rhyming like at a caliber that is just as good as any of the males, you know, the men out there. This album is short enough track list, but everything is quality. She brings it each and every single track, and I just think it was so well executed, so well put together. She knows, she's confident. You can hear it in her tracks. I have nothing bad to say about this. Every single every single song is amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's phenomenal.
The thing that people don't talk about as much on this album, you did say Light as a Rock, right?
Yep.
Or you said, oh,
Light
I'm
as
just
Rock.
bugging.
Yep.
This is the thing that I loved about this album that a lot of people don't realize is that at this time, this drops in what? 88. You're talking about Kane.
Yep.
You're talking about Rakim.
Yep.
You're talking about KRS.
Yep.
You're talking about what, for me at least, at 45 was my golden era of hip hop. And Lyte did not miss a step with any of them. When people always go, when XXL, and I swear whoever runs their Twitter account was raised by roaches because they ask the dumbest shit every day. No, I'm dead ass. Like yesterday, it was like, yo, what's the dopest album of 2020? I'm like, my nigga, it's been like 28 days. Like, do y'all just not have anything else to tweet about? Like, but you know, they do this all the time. What's the dopest this song? And then you'll see on the side, whenever I see No Vaseline trending, I'm like, XXL done asked that same damn question again. But right. People never talk about 10% diss. 10% diss at that time. I
personally do, but yes, the vast majority does not. Yeah.
At that time, and when people don't mention 10% diss, it's one of those things where it's just like, you're telling me your age. Because if you were there, then you understand two of the hardest diss songs from the 80s period was The Bridge Is Over and 10% diss. Yes. Because these were career-ending diss songs. I mean, you could say No Vaseline was lethal, but it didn't end NWA's career. No. It wasn't like after you heard No Vaseline, Dr. Dre was over. You know what I mean? No, it didn't end careers. 10% diss ended Antoinette's career. Like, that was it. You know what I mean? Herbie Lovebug was dead in the water. You know, I'm not the Herb you're looking for. Like, we like, Herb was done after this. Like, careers were over. The same way KRS did to Shan and he couldn't bounce back. This is what Lyte did to Antoinette. You know what I mean?
And this was her debut album.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she comes out this strong. And it's just, it's a fantastic album. If people have not heard it, please do. And don't skip anything.
But that's the thing.
Nothing merits skipping.
And the thing is you gotta put it in the context for folk, because folk don't understand. When I say Lyte is the dopest female MC, what about Lauren? What about this? We could have this debate for years, but for my criteria and my metric, Lyte, it's like easy. It's like easy. So dope pick, Porsche. Rack, what you got, good brother?
I'm gonna go off the beaten path, man. I'm going with D'Angelo, Voodoo. I wasn't into his first album initially. I had to walk into it after the fact. But Voodoo, man, I ran into that. I didn't know what to expect. And when I sat down and listened to it, it's beautiful, man. It's almost like a masterpiece. It between the first and second album is different. It's extreme differences, if you ask me, from as far as the sound. I don't think he relied much on, like, you know, your drum machines and things like that. It felt like he purposely went with that band sound with the Soul Crayons and everybody else. With the exception of Devil's Pie, I mean, I don't skip that song, but I'm just saying as far as a fit, if I had to take one out, I would take it out. Not to say that I don't love the song, because I'm a Primo head, y'all know that. But this joint is flawless to me, man. And to have Red and Meth on it and not sound out of place, that's what I was scared of when I saw the notes. I was like, okay, how is Red and Meth in 2000 gonna fit on a D'Angelo joint? And I should have known better. Album is dope though, man. The Line, Send It On, Chicken Grease, The Root, Spanish joint, Remake of Feel Like Making Love. I mean, if you ain't seen the video for, what's that, Untitled, How Does It Feel? I mean, that was everywhere. He had everybody girl shook. So just
that came on BET's Midnight Love
every day
night.
Every day to the point where
I told you guys, I like consumed BET like the world was ending, and that was the last thing ever that you could watch ever. And D'Angelo, that song was just every single day, every day.
Hits. If it was a viral back then, Hits made it go viral when he did his own video to it. So
right.
Just a dope R&B album that kicked the 2000s off, man. If you haven't heard it, you got to put it in your rotation and take it from there, man. You won't be disappointed, man. I love this album.
No doubt, man. It's funny. I'll go back to Voodoo because that's definitely on my R&B side of things. But another one, and I'll give a couple more. Good Kid, Mad City by Kendrick. I think that's a perfect hip hop album. I'll put it on. Porsche, like you said, cinematic. It tells a story. You know what I mean? I think everything fits great. Kind of similar to Rec, what you were saying about Voodoo. I think it flows great, but Devil's Pie just sticks out like a sore thumb.
It does.
It sticks out, and it's not a bad stick out because I love the song, but it doesn't flow with what it was. Because for people who may not know, Devil's Pie was recorded for the Belly soundtrack, so this was the oldest song. It was not made during the Voodoo sessions, but it just sticks out. Similar to Compton, the Just Blaze song that ends Good Kid, Mad City, it just sticks. I mean, and maybe you could say, hey, at the end of the day, this was Compton. And that could be the stamp of why it ended it like that, which could be totally understandable. But for me, it didn't feel right. It just felt like we need a Just Blaze banger or something.
Right. Like that. It felt like just a song for the album as opposed to the concept of what the album truly was.
Exactly. Another one for me is LL's Mama Said Knock You Out. I love that album. Again, similar to Commons B, LL is coming off of Walking with a Panther. He's dead in the water. We're like, yo, what the fuck is up with this nigga? It's going back to Cali shit. Like, yo, what is this? And then he comes back with that. And I'll go in with this one too. The first Prime album. I know a lot of people don't like this album, and a lot of people actually said they were really disappointed in the album, and I'm the exact flip of it. You know what I mean? I feel like Primo using Adrian Young samples, the beat sounded fresh. It didn't sound like the stale Primo of the same old Primo we're used to. Sober Royce sounded amazing. You know what I mean? Because that's how I'm now defining people by things like that. Like the show we did, like 97 Hope. Like what? So you've got Drunk Royce and you've got Sober Royce. I enjoy Sober Royce a whole lot better. So those are just Good Kid, Mad City, Mama Said Knock You Out, the first Prime album. Those are three albums that I can just put on, never get tired of anything else. Porsche, you got any more left, miss?
I got Run DMC's Raising Hell album. And I think that album is very, very important to me because that's my introduction to hip hop in general. And ever since I first heard it, I've loved it. And I don't go back to it too often. Like, I don't want to say it's in my rotation every day I hear it, but I go back to it often enough that I don't skip anything. And it gets better and better each time I listen to it. And the variation is amazing. I love the energy. It's just, and it hypes you up, like it's one of those albums that you could just play in and you get excited or just hype about whatever while you're listening to it. So for me, Raising Hell, it's an oldie, but it's a goodie. I love it.
No doubt. Rec, you got any more left on the hip hop side?
Yeah, I'm gonna just run through them real quick. Hold on, my notes went away. Well, I got one R&B, but my hip hop joints, Group Home, that album, I don't care what nobody say, it's flawless. I listen to it, bad rhymes and all. The Infamous, I can listen to the skits, Kill, but I'm like you. After about the third skit, I'm like, all right, enough is enough. I got you. Stab you in your face with the nose bone. I get it. Only Built for Cuban Links. I'm with Porsche. That just don't never get old, ever. And Amel LaRue, Infinite Possibilities. Her debut album. For those that don't know, she is the female vocalist from Groove Theory. She had a debut album in February 2000, and you know, when artists split from groups that are bigger than the artist, you don't know what you're gonna get. You don't know what's gonna happen, especially when the producer of the group is not with the artist. Dope album. It's smooth. It's not. It's nothing like sound wise what you'll hear from her doing the Groove Theory project. If you haven't heard it, check it out.
All right, no doubt. Some of the joints that I got left on the hip hop side of things, I got Daytona, Push. Now, somebody may say, hey, Kill, it's 6 songs, it's an EP. I don't know. I can play it. I ain't tired of it yet. I love it. The wild part is I have a couple of relatively new joints. I got Retropolitan. I love Retropolitan. To me, it's a perfect album. I'm not skipping a song. I enjoy the songs. I mean, time will tell, but I love it. This Shining to Me was a perfect hip hop album. You know, I kind of was shocked when Vague and I forgot who else it was saying like they felt, and Eddie was saying they felt long. You know, like, you know, I can kind of get it now, but even now I still can pop into Shining, listen to the whole thing. Sleeper, Girls I Got 'Em Locked by Super Lover C and Casanova Rudd. I can listen to every single song on there and then listen to the album 4 more times in a row without even getting tired of it. I love that album. And the last one I had was The Plugs I Met and Tana Talk. Both of them are perfect to me. I don't skip anything with Tana Talk and The Plugs I Met. Now, again, because somebody may have skimmed through this video, let me break this down again to why you're not hearing the Infamous, because to me, the album gotta be perfect. I don't want to hear skits. I don't want to hear gunshots. I don't want to hear you on the roof. I don't want to hear you in the kitchen cooking. I just want to hear music. You know what I mean? So that's why people are going to be like, well, how are you going to say Plugs I Met, but he ain't say, you know, the Infamous. I don't want to hear Prodigy talking about all the shit he ain't going to do. So I have no to do that. You know what I mean? So that's it for me. Now, tell me this, y'all, and maybe it was just me, so if it is, then I'll try to explain it. Do you feel like like I said earlier, when Porsche brought this topic, I was kind of like, I was running off R&B albums like that. Do you all feel that same way? Or do you feel like there's really no perfect R&B album? Because I have a philosophy on it, but I want to hear from y'all first if y'all felt like it was easier to pick R&B, because like I said, stuff was just coming to my mind. I didn't even have to look through nothing. I didn't even have to think about nothing. It was like, oh man, I can name you 8 perfect R&B albums off the top of my head without even thinking about it or whatever like that. What about you, Porsche? How do you feel about R&B type?
I think for me, R&B is the same. I don't think perfect music albums exist just because of how subjective it is, but it is easier for me to think of R&B albums than it was to think of hip hop albums for some odd reason. I'm not entirely sure why, but I also think it's because, I mean, R&B albums, like R&B artists, a lot of them don't write their own stuff. It's like, you know, it's a collection of other people's written stuff. So I feel like, and I don't know, I mean, I'm not in music on the back end of things. I feel like they can pick and choose which songs they want to fit the topic and theme. So these albums seem a little more coherent. I mean, I've got like, off the top of my head, like Whitney Houston's, what album is it? The My Love Is Your Love album. Like every single song on that album is perfect. You know, like it is. And it follows the same theme throughout. And it's very, very coherent. And it's like a perfectly written essay, you would say, about like, you know, heartbreak and that kind of thing. I feel like that's attributed to the fact that she's like not really writing them, you know, other people are writing them for her. So she's like, okay, well, you know, I mean, again, I don't know what happens on the back end, but I just feel like there's a little bit more time to kind of collect what you want to fit your vision and theme and what you want to talk about and address and sort of portray. So that's what I think personally.
Yeah.
Porsche, I gotta say once again, you are coming for the collection plate this week. Very dope point. Right. What about you?
Shout out to homie Ryan Toby. He wrote that song for her. He's from Willingboro. Kid from City High. And Sister Act 2.
Mm-hmm.
That's him. Porsche made a good point, man. I think the reason for me why it was kind of, I don't want to say easier, but why the R&B albums stick out, I'm a hip hop head. That's where my music foundation is based in. So if something R&B wise speaks to me, it's going to stick with me. I'm not going to forget it. So it might be a little bit easier for me to pick out R&B albums that I feel are seamless or perfect or, don't have many skips on them as opposed to hip hop. I consume hip hop at a much greater pace than I do R&B, or at least older R&B, because I'm not even gonna get into that, but I consume hip hop more than I do R&B, and the R&B that sticks with me, it's gonna stick more so than some of the hip hop that I have to listen to. So I don't know. I think the R&B that is stand out, and there's a reason for that. And the hip hop that we choose, we have to dig through the mud a little bit. So I don't know. I mean, it's just a weird time in music. You have to really, really dig for certain quality music, if that makes sense.
No, it does. And Porsche, the piece that you brought up was huge because I wasn't even thinking about that, because everything for me always comes back to a personal thing. So when you said perfect albums, I mean, I was like in effect mode, I'll be sure, coming from where I'm from, Anthony Hamilton, Voodoo and Brown Sugar, D'Angelo, even Velvet Rope, Janet, Black and White America, Lenny Kravitz, My Life, Mary J. Blige, Urban Hang Suite, and Black Summer Nights, Maxwell, Purple Rain, Prince, Promise, Sade, 112's debut. People don't know about this. Sleepy's theme, Sleepy Brown's solo indie album. Find it. It's on Amazon. Thank me later. And I think for me, those things, when My Life dropped in 94, I'm at Morgan, and it was just an incredible album. You know what I mean? And Porsche, what you said makes so much sense is that you have a team coming around you to help push you. Whereas with these MCs, you got P and Hab in the studio with a whole bunch of Queensbridge niggas, blunts and 40s. You know what I mean? So not saying that can't help you, but them other Queensbridge niggas ain't really helping you. They just there. You know what I'm saying? Whereas like you said, even the interview I did with Chucky Thompson, you've got the hitmen around you. You've got songwriters, a faith that's not known at that time is in the studio helping you. You know what I mean? So you have this team around you. Like you said, Porsche, it's almost like comparing somebody who has to write their own English paper versus a group of people who are writing an English paper. You know what I'm saying? So great point. I didn't even think about that. For me, it was just, I know R&B speaks to me a whole lot more than what hip hop did. You want to say something, Porsche?
No, I was going to say, I think Prince wrote his own stuff.
Right. I mean, so yeah, you have
like there are R&B artists. Like I understand that there are some artists that did write their own stuff, but the majority of the albums we think of, especially in that period, that sort of the 90s and when hip hop was like, when R&B was like sweet and we love it and all that kind of stuff, and the one that you kind of refer to the most, a lot of those artists didn't write their own stuff. That's all I was getting at. So I don't want anyone to be like, well, Prince wrote his own stuff. I know that some R&B artists did write their own stuff, especially when you take it all the way back. But I'm talking about like in general, R&B artists don't write their own stuff. Okay.
Right.
I just want to clear.
And I think that's a great point. But I know for me, and when it's funny because people who know me on Twitter assume all I listen to is hip hop. You know what I mean? And there could be nothing further from the truth. Right. You know what I mean? Like, and what I meant by like music, like R&B music would speak to me more. It's like, hip hop is great. I love it. I can tell you where I was when I first heard Road to the Riches. I can tell you where I was when I first heard Live at the Barbecue. I can tell you where I was when I heard Big's Unbelievable. But for me also, what I mean by I don't like that music didn't connect me to life. And what I mean by that is I can remember listening to Jodeci's Come and Talk to Me, being in 11th grade, trying to kick it to a shorty, having a crush on her, you know what I mean? And listening to these words and listening to the song and then, you know, getting the oomph to go kick it to the shorty. Hip hop doesn't do that for me. I can't sit back and be like, yo, rat me out. Yo, I was listening to motherfucking Infamous, son. And I had the 4 pound on me, son. And I was about to wet this nigga, son. Like, hip hop doesn't connect with me like that to real life. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just doesn't. Whereas R&B music does. Like, people who know me from way back in the day, I used to have slow jam tapes called 90 Minutes in Timberland back in high school. You know what I mean? Like on some old 90 Minutes of Knocking Boots type thing. So slow jams, yeah, 90 Minutes in Timberland, brother.
Yo, I was trying to figure out where the Timberland was.
That 90 Minutes of Knocking Boots, bro. But so I've always loved slow jams. Like I said, people who know me, like in Morgan in the high school, like it'd be like, okay, let me get one of your slow jam tapes. Like, let me get one of your slow jam tapes. And I have volumes. I'm like 90 Minutes in Timberland, volume 21. Like, so that to me is why I like R&B. Like, I guess sticks out to me a lot more than, let's say, hip hop does or whatever like that. But but Porsche, I think that's a great point that you brought up.
Dope point.
Listen, I was heartbroken when I found out that Michael Jackson didn't actually write Man in the Mirror. I love the writer,
right.
But I was like, what? Like, what do you mean like that? Like, I remember I was like shocked because Michael Jackson has written some of his own songs. Yeah. And then comes Man in the Mirror, my favorite Michael Jackson song ever. And then they're like, oh, and by the way, he didn't write that. And I'm like, awesome.
Yeah,
that's so dope right now.
Here's the funny part about Man in the Mirror and how music speaks to us all differently. Hell to me would be put me on an elevator and make me listen to Man in the Mirror for eternity.
Oh wow. Like
that's probably like one of my like hated Michael Jackson songs. Wow. Like Man in the Mirror, like is like put a gun to my head and just kill me. Wow. But this is the beautiful thing that I love about music because the way it speaks to one person speaks to another person and everything like that. So that's kind of it. Our perfect hip hop albums. R&B stuff. Porsche, you got the collection played again. It's the second week in a row, man. I can't make no money on my own podcast anymore because you keep taking the collection plate every week. Tell me this. Is there anything that you think... So, Porsche, you made the great point about why R&B people, you know, if they have a team and how you have this. Do you think there's more to be said about that if more hip-hop people did have a team? And or because here's the thing that I'm always trying to explain to young folk about hip hop, that the industry didn't know what to do with hip hop till about 1989, 1990. You know what I mean? So I feel like that played a huge part into a lot of the hip hop that we got post 90. For people watching who don't understand what I mean, people in behind the scenes didn't know what hip hop was. You know, again, like this was a genre that was not supposed to last. This was just a phase. This was almost like rec. This was hip hop house. Like that shit lasted for a good 2 years and then 2 years stopped doing it. Like that's what hip hop was supposed to be. So when a lot of people would get record deals, there was no executive saying go do this. It was like do whatever the fuck y'all do. Like just make your music, which to me is why we got a lot of great music in the 80s. But after NWA came out with Fuck the Police and Straight Outta Compton and all the cursing and they started selling records and the parental advisory sticker, that's when labels started saying, this could be how we could make some money. And then you had label heads that were now in your business saying, no, we got to make this song. We got to make a single. We got, like I said earlier, now we need the new Jack Swing song. We need this song. We need that song. So I feel like that kind of played a part into why we may not have, in my definition of perfect hip hop albums, because now you're no longer being able to just make the music you feel good making. You have to try to fight with somebody to make the music that they want you to make so that it can sell records. But Porsche, what do you think?
Do I think that hip hop should how it would?
Do you think it would be? We would have, I guess, more perfect hip hop albums if we had teams of people. If we had somebody. If we had, I don't know.
That takes it back to like the whole ghostwriter thing, right? It's just so frowned upon in this genre and culture because. I mean, I got into the conversation earlier today on Twitter about this kind of a little more extensively. I just think that it's sort of a cop out for hip hop, and I don't know why we don't. Someone asked me, like, why do we give this particular artist a pass for saying this, but then hip hop artists rappers get, like, you know, crucified for not living whatever they're rapping about. And I think it all goes back to the culture and where it originates and all of that kind of stuff. I just don't think that writers and a team compiling things for content in hip hop would go over well. And I mean we're examples here. So I don't. And
I mean not. And I'm sorry. Let me try to define. And I don't mean ghostwriters, but I'm not a big TDE dude. From what people tell me, Schoolboy Q and all these, there's all these people with TDE. Yeah. So not necessarily having a ghostwriter, but I just wonder, you know, because we're not privy to Kendrick's sessions,
right?
You know,
right.
And I'm just wondering, not that Schoolboy Q and the whole TDE camp are in there saying, say this or say that or say this or say that, but just being around a group of dope MCs, maybe freestyling, you know, maybe like kind of like what we asked y'all a couple of weeks ago when I was like, how do you keep your sword sharp as a 35 and over MC who's married, who goes to work every day? You're not around that element, you know, versus maybe somebody who is a Kendrick Lamar who has 8 other phenomenal MCs around him. So not that they're, you know, writing for him or anything like that, but from what I hear from TDE's camp is that I guess the guy who's the president, like they're very hands-on team. You know what I mean? And it's not like Kendrick is just in the studio with whoever he just desires at that time. It's kind of like, okay, what are we going to do with the Pimp a Butterfly? Okay, cool. Because I was hearing things like from different producers, like people were reaching out to be on the Pimp a Butterfly, and they were like, people were shooting down big names like, nah, that's not the sound we're looking for in this album. Not that you're being saying no.
To be honest, Kendrick would be a perfect example because he sort of never misses with his albums, right? So whatever Kendrick is doing, whatever input he's getting from the team is working for him. And you're absolutely right. That has nothing to do with ghostwriting. So I apologize. I misunderstood what you were.
No, it's my fault. I didn't.
But yeah, like in that regard, I think that having a team to provide input for your vision, who's around you, who knows the sound, who knows the style, who knows the sort of the ins and outs of what you're trying to do. Yeah, I mean, Kendrick is a prime example of that. So I would say, I think, yeah.
What do you think, Rep?
I think it'll help, but I think it truly depends on the potential of the artist. Kendrick is a rarity in that sense. That team, TDE is a rarity. It's rare you have a camp of 7-8 MCs that are all nice on their own, and they don't do group projects. They ain't put out no TDE project. They got all solo deals. So that's a rare situation. If you're fortunate enough to have that, you'd be stupid not to use it.
Right.
For those that don't have it, I don't know. I don't know, Kill. I think it is all dependent on the artist. If the artist is willing to have a team of whatever it is, other MCs, other producers, influencers, whoever, to make that project come out, you know, the way that, you know, everybody can be proud of. I don't know. I don't know if I have an answer for that question. I don't know.
And the reason why I say that is because now just even thinking about it, and there's another reason why I love you guys, because just in having these conversations, my mind starts racing. When you look at the run that the Soulquarians had,
right?
You know what I mean? Because basically, for folk who don't know, when it was time to do Voodoo, like they kind of just took over Electric Lady Studios in Village. And out of those albums are coming Things Fall Apart, which is an incredible album. You know what I mean? Because Common's in one room, the Roots are in one room, Erykah Badu's Mama Guns come out of this session of just having creative people just around you. Right. You know, and I think somehow, some way, like when you look at that run of Things Fall Apart, Voodoo, Mama's Gun, Like Water for Chocolate, like, you know, you're looking at, you know, there was a story of how Chicken Grease for D'Angelo's Voodoo was actually for Common. It was actually for Common.
Wasn't one of those songs like a sound check?
Maybe. I mean, like they were just saying that they literally would just press record and just play. You know what I mean? Which is why how does it feel? The Untitled joint just cuts off. They ran out of tape.
Yeah, they ran out of tape.
Simple. It just ran out of tape, you know. So, but anyway. I'm just, you know, thinking of those things that I don't know if in hip hop we get enough of those creative juices. And the other piece is because, which from what I've heard, that kind of led to a little strife between D and Quest was now the production credits get money.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because we're all just sitting here jamming, but then on the end of the day, it says produced by D'Angelo.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Or I've even heard Quest say that the spirit of JD, that Dilla had a huge part to do with Voodoo, but I don't see James Yancey's name anywhere on that album. You know, so
it takes you have to have, for one, those guys were all friends. That's the main thing between both camps that we just talked about, and that is a big thing that you have to have in that. You got to be friends first, because you just said it, Kill. Like, okay, the spirit of Dilla was in that session or in them sessions, but like you said, ain't no James Yancey nowhere in the credits.
And at the end of the day, did Dilla get a check?
Right. So if you're gonna do those things, it's got to be right, from the music to the business to the to what the finished product is. It all has to come out right. Because me, you, and 10 other cats that we all cool with could get into one room and make something. But is it gonna be right? You know what I mean? And that's the main thing.
Right. And I mean, I think too that prayerfully, maybe moving forward, this could be something that people do more in hip hop. I know we used to do it down here. I used to do I don't know, cats haven't heard this. Find this album. It's called Chasing Goosebumps. It's by The Playlist. And basically what this was Jazzy Jeff got a whole bunch of people together and in 7 days recorded an entire album on some shit like, look, the industry always wants to say, you got to take 8 months to make a good album and woo woo woo. He said, yo, it was after Super Bowl Sunday. This may happen 3 years ago, because Super Bowl Sunday, they started recording on Monday. They put it out the following Monday. In 7 days, an amazing album. They have the YouTube. They have the video sessions on YouTube.
They do them every year.
And the great thing is that, you know, having all those creative minds around. I used to do it out here. We used to call it the Congregation. Once a month, producers, MCs, everybody would just come through my crib and we would just build. Because, you know, at this age, I'm 45, you know, we need those creative juices. You know what I mean? And maybe you would come in and play a beat and I'm like, damn, how'd you do that? I don't know how to do that. And you know what I mean? So it's just that building thing that
each one build.
That may be missing in hip hop, based off of everybody has their own home studio. So it's kind of just like, I'm not going to the studio with my friends anymore. And keep in mind, for you young folk out there who have home studios, there was a time in 1989 I would have killed whoever who was in the way of me getting to a studio. There were times that getting to the studio was more important than getting some ass. Like, you could have been a virgin and the baddest shit could have been like, come over and hit, and you'd be like, I got a studio session. Like, that's how the studio used to be.
More important than booty and water.
Right. And so, but that's the thing, that now we're in a place where, you know, sorry sis, but now we're in a place where everybody's just recording themselves. You know what I mean? So you don't get that feedback. You don't get that oomph, or you don't get the, I don't know about that. So just a dope point, all coming from Porsche, and what you brought up. Yo, dope show. I definitely want to hear from folk, and I'm sure this week on Twitter we will hear from folk about perfect hip hop albums and how, you know, somebody says you can jump over skits. And again, ain't no right or wrong answer. It's just whatever floats your boat, whatever it is. Rhett, give them all the info, brother. Where can they get at you?
So Mixcloud at DJ Rec1. New mix to be up Tuesday. Twitter is at DJ Rec1. Instagram is at DJ Rec1 as well. Just type in DJ Rec1, I'll pop up. Appreciate the support.
Porsche.
On Twitter at Shayla Porsche.
All right, and y'all already know what it is with me, Kill889 on Twitter and IG. We'll make beats for food. I don't think I started anything this week because I really wasn't on Twitter this week that much. This was one of those weeks that I just wasn't there, so we don't even have the segment of the shit Kill started this week on Twitter. I will say this. I am no longer talking about that white man ever again in life, because his stands are, Porsche, you remember that Puffy thing. We went through 7 days of people defending Sean Puffy Combs, which was the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Craziest thing I've ever seen in my life.
I literally don't even want to say Eminem's name anymore. Like I literally like telling people, if you tweet to me something about Eminem, I'm just ignoring it.
Let me tell you how bad it is that I was talking to someone. It was a thread. It was a thread of about 17 people. I get it. And I was talking to one particular individual who asked me a question. And I brought up Biggie being able, and it was about rhyme patterns, and it was about the technical aspect of actually rhyming. And I said, I gave a big, long explanation, used up all my character limit. And at the end, I finished it with, Big was really great at that, as in the Notorious B.I.G. Some random comes into this and says, but what about Eminem? And I was like, are you, like, no, never mind. I'm not going to get into it. But anyways, that opened up another can of worms. So I too have retired that name, that rapper, everything to do with it. If he's not
there's nothing you can do with him. There's nothing you can do with him.
Retire, I'm going to retire him.
You won't win. You can't win.
Yeah. So I'm done with that. So I will check y'all next week, y'all. As always, good looking. All right.
Peace.